Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good follow up topic today, so let's go for it. What's the creepiest thing you've ever seen? Part 2. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Driving on the interstate late at night, road was decently foggy, so visibility was somewhat reduced. In this distance, there was a light waving back and forth through the fog in the middle of the road, slowly getting more pronounced as I got closer. I got close enough to then see that it was a guy waving his phone flashlight to alert oncoming traffic. Right in the area past him were two cars that had just crashed, and bodies all over the road. No first responders there yet or anything, just carnage and a man flashing a light. When I was younger, 11, maybe 12, I moved into a new house. My room had a big closet and access to the attic. I was a scared little kid and was worried a monster lived up there. One night, I woke up in the middle of the night to see my closet door slowly opening. I didn't move and then yelled for my parents. Found out if the door isn't properly closed, it will open itself. Still have never been as scared as I was in that moment. When I was a kid in New York City, me and my mom used to take the train or bus whenever we traveled. You can imagine the weird shit I've encountered during my childhood, but one event really sticks out to me. This homeless woman, who appeared to be on the influence of some sort of hard drug, stepped onto the train I was on. She started yelling about random shit, as crackheads would be known to do from time to time, so it was nothing too worrying. But then she stopped and started laughing directly at me. Then, while maintaining eye contact, she urinated over herself and said something along the lines of, "Those dreams are never gonna stop." I had been suffering from a recurring nightmare for years to that point and would wake up crying, sometimes without me even realizing it. It scared the living shit out of me. It was probably a lucky guess, but man, did that shit stick with me. The nightmares did stop eventually, though, so she can go herself. This is a bit of a different take on creepy. When I was about 12, I accidentally went off pistol on a ski run and got a bit lost. I found myself on a flat expanse. I skied in the direction of a massive board that I assumed was a sign, offering directions. But the lettering was on the other side. When I got around to face it, it was a danger sign, warning people not to go near the lake due to thin ice. This is Australia. It's not cold enough to produce reliable ice. I realized I could have simply disappeared, and perhaps no one would ever have found out what happened to me. Being a kid, witnessing my dad going through of alcohol withdrawals, he would hold long conversations by himself as if he was talking to someone on the phone, and he would see things that weren't there. He then took my bike for a ride and fell over and had a seizure. I was too scared to do anything, but someone came to help, and he went to the hospital for a week. It's a terrible thing to see, and if you've been a part of it or around it, you know. Sorry. Went to bed in a hotel room with the balcony door open because it was hot. Had a bad dream of a guy in a red checkered shirt peering into the window, entering, and eating an ice cream at the end of the bed. When I woke up, I discovered a half-melted banana-colored ice cream between the bed and the wall. Was staying at my sister's when I was 14 and had a horrible nightmare about being strangled by the devil. I could only see his face smiling at me and feel a crushing sensation on my throat. I told him to F off and swung a punch, and then I woke up. I looked over and it was about 1 a.m. The next morning, my sister was complaining that she had a really horrible nightmare, that the devil was strangling her. I asked her what time this happened, and she said around 1 o'clock. Not a spooky ghost story, but the creepiest thing that I've ever seen was working my college job. I took a lot of younger than my age in general. A 50-year-old man was intently set on talking to me and getting up real close to me while he did so. That alone made me incredibly uncomfortable. Then he asked, "By the way, how old are you?" When I said 24, he looked at me with an absolutely disgusted look on his face and said, "Oh, I thought you were way younger than that." To this day, I am creeped out by that single comment. Our neighbors had a little disagreement. He evidently hit her a few too many times, and she decided to knife him in the chest while he slept. She dragged his body to the closet. Then she walked to the kitchen and turned the burner on high while accidentally knocking over some paper towels or something. Then she remembered that she's out of cigarettes and takes a stroll to the store. The heat from the blaze nearly melted our vinyl siding. Later, we watched crime scene techs use a shovel to pry him from the floor of what used to be the closet. Imagine burnt chicken skin stuck to a frying pan and having to get under it with your spatula. It was a lot for one evening. Once saw a boar running up the shaft of a spear that went through its head, a blow that would be fatal to any living thing, that you just look and think, oh, it's dead, brain's gotta be mashed potatoes. But it just kept charging and creeping up the shaft of the spear like it was possessed and wanted to kill the man holding it, regardless of life and death. It's very unsettling to see. One night, when staying at my parents' house, our daughter started crying because she needed a diaper change. My wife and I both went to her. At this time, our daughter is old enough to walk, but not old enough to talk. After the diaper change, our daughter wiggled her way down to the ground and proceeded to walk toward the hallway. She didn't stumble her way there, but walked intentionally. At first, we thought the light in the hallway got her attention, and so we let our daughter walk to the hallway. Reaching it, our daughter turns, looks down the hallway, and starts waving to someone. But it was the middle of the night, and the hallway was empty. Creepiest effing thing I ever saw. It's not something that I witnessed, but something that happened to me. I have schizophrenia, and I delusionally believed that I was pregnant, had morning nausea, no vomiting, abdominal distension, and several other symptoms of pregnancy. I felt the baby kicking. It happened multiple times, and a gynecologist said that nothing was wrong with me physically. When I was 11, I woke up in the middle of the night to find my bedroom light on. I was confused and looked over to the stairs and thought I saw my little sister's head kind of peeking out, like she was hiding and waiting for me to see her prank of turning on my light. I called out, "Very funny, I can see you," and my voice sounded so loud in the silent house. I realized her head was part of the banister, and it wasn't her, and I realized she was likely sound asleep in her own bed, and I was all alone. I'm sure I must have sleepwalked over and turned on the light and woken up later, but it was so unsettling to think something silly was happening, only to realize I was alone and the house was totally quiet, and everyone else was asleep and didn't know what was happening. At a large playground, a commotion occurred on the other end. Apparently, a strange man had attempted to walk off with a little 5 to 6-year-old girl. Her mother had caught on, raised the alarm, and several fathers at the playground had tackled and pinned him. The cops came and arrested the man and took interviews with everyone. Terrifying when you consider what this man's likely plans for the innocent child were. Hopefully he's having a terrible time in prison. Nothing warms my heart more than a community coming together to beat up a child predator. Good job. Not my story, but someone else's story. I dated a mortician about 20 years ago, and she got a call to come pick up a guy from the hospital that died in the ER. She's a short girl, and when she gets there, this guy is already on a gurney, and he was kind of a big guy with a large belly. She has to strap the body down to the gurney, so she reaches over him to grab the strap, and when she leaned on him because of her height, she pressed down pretty good on his chest, and he let out this loud sigh, and it startled her, and she screamed. Apparently, he had air in his lungs from them trying to save him, and she made him exhale. She knew what happened after she screamed, but it just took her for surprise for a second. It sounded like the guy was coming back to life. I was a kid, and it was Christmas Day, and there was a knock on our front door. Expecting it to be family, my dad and I opened the door together, and there was an old man standing there who was asking for directions to the train station. Our house was smack bang in the middle of suburbia, so he must have been walking in the wrong direction for hours. My dad gave him directions and offered to drive him, but he declined and thanked us. As he was leaving, he looked down at me and said something really strange. "Never go to that place that scares you." This man was really, really old and walked at a shuffling pace. Shrugging off his comment as well-intentioned senility, I went back to the living room. As he was walking down our path, it started to rain. My dad went to get an umbrella from under the stairs to give it to him, and when he went back outside, man was gone. My dad ran down the path and up and down the street trying to find him, but he was nowhere to be seen. The place I was scared of was the shack in the woods I used to walk past on my way to and from school. Always gave me a bad feeling. A few years later, someone was arrested for murdering a child there. I was out walking my 2 dogs, 100-pound Shepherd, Great Pyrenees mix, 40-pound Shepherd Husky mix, and passed by a house party. On my way back home 20 minutes later, I passed the same house party. The house party was on another street. I was passing their backyard fence, but it was short enough you could see over. As I passed them, some guy in black pants and a black coat with a hood up came walking at a brisk pace. He starts to ask me about my dogs. He has a Russian, Ukraine, Eastern European accent. He says, "Those are beautiful dogs, and I bet if anyone tried to hurt you, they'd stop them." I said, "Probably." He said, "And that big one, I bet he would bite someone if they tried to touch you." I got this creeping feeling on my spine that he was actually asking, "Does your dog ever bite?" The honest answer would have been, "He's an absolute angel. He would never hurt anyone in his life." But instead I said, "Yes, he definitely would. He's bitten people before." I sent a message to my roommate at the time saying, "Hey, I'm being followed." Roommate calls me immediately and asks where I'm at. I say casually, "Oh, I'm just out for a walk with the dogs. I'm just turning on street name by the stop sign." Roommate says, "Be right there." The man continues to ask, where did I get the dogs? What breed are they? How much were they worth? He's probably 3 feet away from me, close enough to touch one of my dogs. The Shepherd Husky mix actually does bite, so since she was between me and him, I felt a little better. Roommate comes running up the street to intercept, and the stranger suddenly puts his head down and walks very intentionally forward down the street. We get to the side road, where our McMansion neighborhood is. The main road continued for another 100 or 200 feet, and I swear to God, a van pulls around the corner very slowly, and I can't say for sure if the man got in or if he kept walking, but the van completely stopped, and we were bathed in headlights. We turned the corner to get out of the light and walked down the most private, narrow street for our McMansion neighborhood and are checking over our shoulders. The van pulls up to the T-section between our neighborhood and the main road and stops again. I square my shoulders, turn to them, and falsely put my hand on my hip and lift my shirt, slightly as if reaching for a gun that isn't there. The van drives away. We go inside. I didn't walk the dogs for 6 months. Maybe kidnappers, maybe dog nappers, maybe a crazy coincidence of a van trying to find the house party. I'll hopefully never know. Yeah, I mean, maybe sex traffickers, maybe a guy who really liked dogs that just happened to have a white van. Who knows? What do you think? My cousin was driving down the road while I sat in the front seat. I saw a bike about to crash towards us and gasped loudly, but next thing I knew, there was no one. He asked what had happened, and I told him I thought I saw a bike about to hit us. We arrived at the stop sign on the left, and a biker pops up. We all got surprised since my hallucination actually happened and laughed it off. We were driving straight, but noticed the biker staring at us. Instead of entering our home, we decided to stop the car and ask the biker what was up. I rolled down my window, and my cousin asked if he needed something, but was just staring at us creepily. So we decided to drive around the block in circles and noticed the biker was following us. The faster we went, the faster he would follow us. It was weird because we didn't understand what he wanted, but my sister, who was sitting in the back seat, turned on her flash to record, and the biker ran away. This makes me think if I hadn't had that hallucination that day, we would have never thought too deeply about the biker, and he would have known where we lived. Didn't happen to me, but to my dad, which makes it all the more creepy, because my dad isn't the type of dude to make up stories or believe in anything supernatural. I used to spend weekends at my dad's, and this was the early to mid-2000s, where the household always had one family computer in the living room. I was sitting at the computer with headphones on, so I didn't react when my dad said something to me, just kept looking at the screen. He shrugged it off and went upstairs. When he walked past my bedroom, there I was, lying on my bed, reading. Here's the thing, I had been reading my book for a while at that point. I was never downstairs on the computer. Needless to say, that freaked him out quite a bit, and he always refers to it as the glitch in the Matrix that he experienced.